Here you are looking at Jaipur now in Rajasthan, where we're looking at a loudspeaker that's been attached to a light pole. There you have it, visuals coming in of a loudspeaker that has been attached to a light pole in Jaipur right outside the Jama Masjid. In fact, on one hand, you have the BJP government cracking down on loudspeakers, taking off loudspeakers in mosques and temples. At least 11,000 loudspeakers that have been pulled down, and many others, at least 33,000 loudspeakers, decibel levels have been brought down. Here you have in Rajasthan, the Congress-ruled state, where a loudspeaker has been attached on a light pole. A light pole right opposite the Jama Masjid. A loudspeaker has been attached on a light pole. Visuals of loudspeakers coming in. On one hand, you have loudspeakers being cracked down upon in Uttar Pradesh, where you have loudspeakers being removed. These are visuals coming in from Uttar Pradesh on your right-hand side, while loudspeakers are being removed from mosques in Uttar Pradesh. At least 11,000 loudspeakers have been pulled down from Uttar Pradesh mosques. And on the left-hand side, you're looking at Rajasthan, Jaipur, where a loudspeaker has been attached to a light pole outside Jama Masjid. Remember, this is the month of Ramzan. This is the month, a holy month of Ramzan, where you have the Muslim community fasting. This is a very auspicious month for the Muslim community across the globe. In India, no different. At a time like this, clearly, this is heightened tensions. On one hand, you have Uttar Pradesh pulling down loudspeakers from mosques, claiming that this has become a nuisance. Many of those loudspeakers are illegal inside mosques, and therefore they've been stripped down in at least 11,000 religious places. The district administration in Uttar Pradesh claims that this is largely across all religious places. Even some temples that have illegal speakers, they've been pulled down too. But here in Uttar Pradesh, close to 11,000 loudspeakers have been pulled down, and at least 33,000 loudspeakers at different religious places have been brought down to permissible decibel levels. That on one hand. On the other, you have Jaipur in Rajasthan on the left-hand side of your screens, where we're seeing the Jama Masjid, a very popular masjid there, where the loudspeaker has been attached to a light pole right in the middle of the road. That's the spot that you see, the light pole carrying the loudspeaker right in the middle of the road. Now, is this legal? Was this allowed? Was there permission taken to place that loudspeaker right in the middle of the road in Jaipur is the question that needs to be, of course, looked into. But here, the Supreme Court has clearly given a mandate on loudspeakers, on permissible decibel levels across, be it religious processions, be it a wedding function, or any event as such. Loudspeakers must be within permissible levels. And there needs to be permission taken adequately to place loudspeakers at any spot for that matter. But here you have religious places, places of religious worship, which of course is a very sensitive issue. And many mosques across India, mosques have loudspeakers inside their premises, many of them way above the decibel levels. The sound that comes out of those loudspeakers are way above the decibel levels, which is against the Supreme Court's mandate as well. Now in Uttar Pradesh, we're looking at Yogi Adityanath, who's cracked down on loudspeakers, claiming that to be a nuisance. And that's the visual that you see here. You're looking at loudspeakers being stripped off the mosque buildings in Uttar Pradesh. Again, I'd like to remind you, this is the holy month of Ramzan. Clearly, we're looking at an auspicious month for the Muslim community. While that said, this is, of course, heightened emotions and sentiments all the more during this month of Ramzan, as loudspeakers during this month of Ramzan have been stripped down in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And that's the visual that you get here on the right-hand side of your screens, where loudspeakers are being pulled down one after the other, 11,000 of them. 11,000 loudspeakers in Uttar Pradesh has been brought down at various different mosques, calling them as illegal. Well, that said, on one hand, that's the BJP-ruled state, while you see the Congress-ruled state in Rajasthan on the left-hand side of your screens, where a loudspeaker has been placed on a light pole right opposite the Jama Masjid. In fact, it's right in the middle of the road. Now, do they have permission to place a loudspeaker in the middle of the street? What are the decibel levels? Has the government looked into this? Is there going to be some kind of regularization of these loudspeakers to be placed in religious places of worship. Shehzad Punewala joining us on the phone line, a BJP spokesperson. Shehzad, we're looking at, on one hand, BJP ruled state of Uttar Pradesh. You have 11,000 loudspeakers being pulled down. On one hand, on the other, in Rajasthan, the Congress ruled state, you have a loudspeaker placed on a light pole right in the middle of the street outside Jama Masjid. But what makes it all the more sensitive that this is the time of Ramzan, a holy, auspicious month for the Muslim community, clearly rising sentiments and emotions at during this month.
This is the difference between the yogi model, which applies the law without fear and favor on everybody equally, and the difference between the secular dhungi model that we see in Maharashtra or in Rajasthan. Now, on the one hand, these people have been imposing sedition law against those who want to chant Hanuman Chalisa in public. But on the other hand, one particular vote bank, for the vote bank, one community is allowed these privileges, whereas the rules are violated, the Supreme Court guidelines are violated, and all kinds of vote bank veto is given to one particular community. And therefore, this is the difference. And therefore, when somebody points this out, it is termed as communal. But the Ashok Gehlot government and the Maharashtra government should tell us why aren't they able to apply the law equally for all? Why is it that Hanuman Chalisa gets penalized, whereas other communities, because of their vote bank politics, are allowed this free pass?
Right. You know, Shehzad, here in Uttar Pradesh, we're looking at close to 11,000 loudspeakers, particularly from mosques largely, that have been pulled down. The allegation is time and again that it's targeting a certain community alone. There are loudspeakers all over. Why mosques have been targeted and loudspeakers being pulled down largely from mosques across of Uttar Pradesh?
Every loudspeaker which has been illegal has been pulled down, whether it's a mosque or a mandir, and therefore the Ram Janki Mandir has also taken down its loudspeakers. The Gorakhnath Mandir also has made some restrictions on the use of loudspeakers, and so has the Sunni Jama Masjid. There is no discrimination as far as the application of the law is concerned in Uttar Pradesh, but in Maharashtra and in Rajasthan, we see that there is even electricity is classified on the basis of religion. They say that we will give electricity to one community during Ramzan, but not to the other community. This has been seen. We see this in Maharashtra, where we find that in Hanuman Chalisa's case, there are restrictions put, but in Azan's case, there are no such restrictions put, as was seen in the Nashik Police Commissioner's order. Therefore, this kind of vote bank politics and appeasement politics is the reason why we see secular dhungi model in Maharashtra and Rajasthan and a strong yogi model in Uttar Pradesh, which sees zero tolerance for any kind of lawbreakers.
A quick word on how do you look at the Rajasthan government allowing for loudspeakers on light poles right in the middle of the streets outside mosque, the Jama Masjid, which has of course raised a lot of questions on its legalities.
The Rajasthan government for some time now has been indulging in what I call as the anti-Hindu and vote bank politics of a different kind, because you saw the manner in which the temple was demolished. You've seen the manner in which the Salasar Balaji gate was demolished. You have also seen the electricity order that they removed, where they said that they would provide electricity to one community. And now this kind of vote bank favoritism and vote bank veto card being given to one community only shows that the Ashok Gehlot government is following the same principles that the Congress party does at the center, which is vote bank is appeased in the name of appeasement politics, and the anti-Hindu sentiment and DNA of the Congress party is at the fore again.
Right. Shehzad, thank you very much for joining us with those details. Let me cut across to Dev Ankur Vadhavan, who's joining us from Jaipur, where we're looking at loudspeakers right in the middle of the streets outside the Jama Masjid. Dev, is this legal? Can you place a loudspeaker outside in the middle of the street, again attached to a light pole?
Well, clearly, Nabila, as far as the guidelines are concerned, the directions are concerned, it's about the volume decibel up to which level the mosques can play the azan on the loudspeakers. But clearly, the Gehlot government needs to answer as far as the BJP's allegation is concerned of not there being a level playing field, of there being different yardsticks being adopted to, let's say, Hanuman Chalisa being played out and azan being played out from a mosque. Time and again, the BJP has accused the Gehlot government of adopting different yardsticks, of being discriminatory and of pandering to minority appeasement at the cost of antagonizing the majority community. Earlier this month itself, the Jodhpur Discom had issued an order which mentioned about uninterrupted power supply during Ramzan in in Muslim-dominated areas in Jaipur, which is the home constituency of Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. The BJP had hit back, claiming that why is it that only Ramzan mention has been there, even though Navratras had been on during that period. So time and again, whether it was the Karoli incident, whether it was the temple demolition, which ironically both the BJP and the Congress were claiming that the other one was responsible for the demolition of the temples. And, in several other instances, the BJP has accused the ruling Congress in Rajasthan of pandering to minority community or indulging in minority appeasement. The Congress, on the other hand, Nabila, has mentioned that it is the BJP which has been trying to indulge in polarization, given the fact that there is elections which are due in Rajasthan next year. And before that, the BJP has been trying to polarize people along the religious lines, along Hindu-Muslim lines, and trying to create a divide to reap political benefits out of this entire thing. Nabila?
Stay with us. I'm going to quickly cut across to Minister Pratap Singh Khajaria-Vas, who's joining us on the phone line. Mr. Pratap Singh, here's a loudspeaker that's been placed on a light pole right outside the Jama Masjid in Jaipur. Is this legal? Of course, questions being raised on how is this allowed on a street where a loudspeaker is attached to a light pole. Is this not appeasement if you are allowing this to happen? Devankur joining us for more. I'm going to cut across to him, but we're going to fix that line in the meanwhile. Dev, what's the Rajasthan government's explanation to this? Is this the only light pole or the only loudspeaker outside the Jama Masjid that we see here, or is this a common practice in Rajasthan that you see loudspeakers outside religious places attached to light poles?
Nabila, there have been several instances of loudspeakers being placed in the vicinity or atop the mosques. Like perhaps there have been cases in Delhi as well, the national capital. So in those terms, there have been several instances of complaints being made of azans being played out loud from the mosques. But clearly the Gehlot government in Rajasthan has been blamed or accused by several people from the BJP of indulging in minority appeasement. What has been happening of late is that both the Congress and the BJP have been claiming that they are the ones who are, well-wishers of the Hindu community. In fact, the Rajasthan government, after the demolition of temples in Karoli, in Alwar district of Rajasthan, had mentioned that the temples will be reconstructed and had even gone ahead and suspended the local SDM and the EEO, apart from the chairman of the Nagarpalika board. So both of them do not want to be seen publicly as being the anti-majority community or anti-Hindu. But the BJP has been latching onto this on several issues, trying to paint the Gehlot government in Rajasthan as being anti-minority and not working for the cause of the majority community.
All right, Dev, this is, of course, breaking up huge, questions about Rajasthan's intention, of course, on pleasing one community and, not using the same yardstick when it comes to the other communities wanting to use loudspeakers. Clearly, we're looking at violation of the law. This is a Supreme Court order where we see loudspeakers must be restricted to decibel levels that are permissible only. And of course, loudspeakers on the streets is certainly going to be adding to the nuisance. Let me cut across to Abhishek Mishra, who's joining us live from Varanasi as well. Varanasi is also a place where loudspeakers largely, on a large scale, were cracked down upon. Abhishek Mishra, Varanasi, across Uttar Pradesh, not just in Varanasi, we see loudspeakers in tens and thousands of them have been brought down. Outside mosques, outside temples, all those illegal loudspeakers have now been stripped down. What more do we know from the state of Uttar Pradesh? Reactions coming in on this. Has this been positive at large?
Well, absolutely, Nabila. And as far as today's Namaaz is concerned, it is being done following all the protocols and the restriction which the UP government has imposed. We are right now here at the Noori Mosque, Jama Mosque here, and you can see the Namaaz is going on. It is within the premises in the mosque. Nobody is outside. As per the guideline, nobody is allowed to perform Namaaz on the roads or either on the street. And this particular mosque where we are standing right now is actually in a street. So there has been a lot of arrangement as far as people are concerned. Security is there, police personnel are there, and they are restricting the people not to perform this on the street. And as far as this whole controversy is concerned, specifically about the loudspeaker, we have seen how the picture came in Varanasi. On one hand, questions over the azan on loudspeaker, but there was chant of Hanuman Chalisa also on loudspeaker. But today the picture is this, where the mosque, where the Namaaz is right now going on, Alvida Namaaz, is being done with all the restrictions, and people have actually welcomed this move. They are saying that we are okay with the fact that there is no loudspeaker. We have just seen how there is no loudspeaker in this particular mosque, and everything is verbal, and all those Namazis who have come here are now performing their duties, and at the same time has welcomed the move. So Varanasi, which was actually in the conversation and in the news for the kind of protest we have seen, and the dialogue between Hanuman Chalisa and the Namaaz, but today Alvida Namaaz is being performed with all the restrictions following the guideline. And this is what is evident today in Varanasi.
Right,
for this
and this should be looked at as a welcome move, of course, aside of all the emotions that could be running high during the month of Ramzan for the Muslim community. This, of course, we are living in the age of phones, of mobile phones, of alarms, of updates. At a time like this, is it necessary to have loudspeakers in religious places, be it the mosques or temples or any other venue for that matter? Loudspeakers really add to the nuisance of the environment. Sound pollution, of course, that it adds to. Sharad Kumar, who's joining us from Jaipur, right outside the Jama Masjid. Sharad, we know that what we see on our screens is certainly not legal. That light pole carrying a loudspeaker outside the Jama Masjid, whatever the reason or whatever the justification that the Jama Masjid administration may have, how did they get permission in the first place is the question. Is that legal? What we see on our screens, was that permission given to place that loudspeaker on that light pole in the middle of the street outside the mosque?
लवीना, ये दिखाना चाहता हूं मैं आपको कि ये जौहरी बाजार है और जौहरी बाजार का ये इलाका है। मैं कहूंगा कि आपको दिखाएं कि वो लाउड स्पीकर भी पर लगा हुआ है, जिसे लेकर तरह तरह के सोशल मीडिया पर मैसेजेस चल रहे हैं और ये लोग आ रहे हैं यहाँ पर। 2 बजे की नमाज है, लेकिन देखिए मैं करीब 20 सालों से देख रहा हूँ जयपुर में ये जुमा की नमाज इसी तरह से हो रही है और लीगल है, परमिशन देकर हो रहा है। और इसी तरह से मैंने देखा था शोभा यात्रा के दौरान भी यहाँ पर रामनवमी में जुलूस निकला था और बाजार में जो हिंदू लोग थे वो जुलूस लेकर निकले थे और आज मुस्लिम लोग जो हैं वो जुमे की नमाज के लिए निकले हैं। लेकिन ये जो विवाद नए नए पैदा होते हैं, इसकी वजह से यहाँ पर परिस्थितियाँ बदल गई है, सोचने का तरीका बदल गया है। इसलिए हम ये सवाल उठाने लगे हैं कि इस तरह से सड़क पर नमाज क्यों हो रही है या फिर लाउड स्पीकर है। लेकिन मैं 20 सालों से जब से यहाँ जयपुर में हूँ, इस तरह से जुमे की नमाज यहाँ होती रही है और यहाँ पर राजस्थान सरकार ने इजाज़त दी है, इसलिए हो रही है। और अब दिखाना चाहेंगे आपको कि यहाँ पुलिस वाले भी मौजूद हैं, जगह जगह सुरक्षा कर्मी मौजूद हैं। हाँ, ये जरूर हिदायत दी गई है कि किसी भी तरह की कोई भी लाउड स्पीकर पर ऐसी बात नहीं हो जिससे कि समाज में कोई वैमनस्य आए। लेकिन यहाँ पर जुमे की नमाज की ये तैयारी आप देख सकते हैं किस तरह से यहाँ पर है। 2 बजे नमाज होनी है, इससे पहले ट्रैफिक को पूरी तरह से बंद कर दिया गया है। सड़क दोनों तरफ। ये
लाउड स्पीकर जो लाइट पोल पे है, ये आज ही के लिए है या वो एक परमानेंट फिक्सचर है?
नहीं, आज ही के लिए आज लगाया गया, प्रशासन से इजाजत लेकर लगाया गया है इस लाउड स्पीकर को। अब ये सोशल मीडिया पर जमकर वायरल हो रहा है कि देखिए कैसे मुसलमानों के त्यौहार में लाउड स्पीकर लगाए गए हैं सड़कों पर। ये एक नए तरह का जमाना है जहां इस तरह का है। लेकिन सच्चाई देखिए लवीना, यह भी है कि हमने देखा था गाने बजाने के साथ यहाँ पर रामनवमी की यात्रा भी निकली थी और दोनों तरफ से मुस्लिम समुदायों के लोगों ने फूल भी बरसाए थे। तो ये भी हमारी एक तहजीब, गंगा जमनी तहजीब जो रही है हिंदुस्तान की, वह है। लेकिन परिस्थितियों में लाउड स्पीकर हो
All right, Sharad there bringing us those details. All right, so here's a clarification. This is what we see in Jaipur in Rajasthan is a one-day affair. Today is Friday Namaaz prayers. They're having a massive congregation right outside the Jama Masjid, and this is permission has been taken from the state government on placing that loudspeaker on that light pole for today. And this, of course, is now going viral on social media with a lot of debate on how is it allowed, why should it be allowed, etc. But from what our reporters tell us on ground, this is a one-day affair. It's happened today for the Friday prayers, a special day during the month of Ramzan where the loudspeaker is placed outside for prayers to happen on this day alone.